The morning sun rose gently over the countryside, bathing the hospital in a golden light. Inside the children's wing, a quiet stillness hung in the air. Doctors and nurses moved with careful precision, their somber expressions reflecting the weight of their duties. Among them was a girl named Emily, no older than 7, resting in a sterile hospital bed. Her small frame seemed even smaller amidst the maze of wires and machines surrounding her. Emily had fought bravely against a condition that defied medical understanding. For months, she endured endless treatments, her strength fading with each passing day. Her once bright eyes now held a quiet resignation, a reflection of the reality she faced. Doctors had exhausted every option, and her family, hearts heavy with grief, had reluctantly agreed to let her go peacefully. Outside, the rural hospital grounds stretched into a meadow, dotted with wildflowers swaying in the gentle breeze. The staff had grown accustomed to the presence of a horse that wandered the perimeter. A calm and gentle creature that seemed to belong to no one yet was embraced by all. The horse had a serene quality, often standing quietly near the children's wing, as if sensing the struggles within. No one knew where the horse came from. Some believed it was a stray that had found solace in the hospital's tranquil surroundings. Others thought it might have been abandoned by a nearby farm. The staff affectionately named him Spirit for his quiet resilience and the peace he brought to those who watched him. On this particular morning, Spirit stood closer than usual, his gaze fixed on Emily's window. Nurses whispered among themselves, noting how the horse seemed drawn to the child's room. "It's almost as if he knows," one murmured, her voice tinged with awe. Spirit's presence was a small comfort on a day heavy with sorrow. Inside, Emily's parents sat by her bedside, holding her small hands in theirs. Her mother, Sarah, struggled to hold back tears, while her father, Mark, stared silently at the floor. The room was filled with an overwhelming stillness, broken only by the rhythmic beeping of the monitors. A soft knock at the door signaled the arrival of Dr. Carter, a kind and experienced pediatrician who had cared for Emily throughout her illness. Her eyes were heavy with compassion as she stepped inside, gently closing the door behind her. "I'm so sorry," Dr. Carter began, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "We've done everything we can. It's time to let her rest." Sarah nodded, her tears finally spilling over. Mark placed a comforting arm around her, his own emotions barely contained. Emily, her voice barely above a whisper, spoke softly. "It's okay, Mummy. I'm not scared." Her words pierced the room, leaving everyone momentarily frozen. Sarah leaned down, kissing her daughter's forehead. "You're so brave," she whispered, her voice breaking. Outside, Spirit neighed softly, the sound carrying through the open window. The noise startled the room, breaking the stillness. Dr. Carter glanced toward the window, her brows furrowing slightly. "That horse," she murmured almost to herself. "He's always here, isn't he?" Mark nodded. "We've seen him every day since we came here. Emily likes to watch him." Emily's eyes fluttered open slightly, her gaze turning toward the window. "He's pretty," she said faintly, a small smile gracing her lips. The sight of her smile, however brief, was a gift her parents clung to. As the moment passed, the weight of the situation returned. Dr. Carter prepared to leave, giving the family a final moment together. But before she could step out, a commotion outside drew everyone's attention. Spirit, who had always remained calm and distant, was now pacing near the window. His movements were deliberate, his head bobbing as he let out another neigh, this one louder and more insistent. Nurses hurried to the window, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. "What's he doing?" one asked, watching as the horse began pawing at the ground. Dr. Carter joined them, her medical instincts blending with a growing sense of intrigue. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice hushed. Spirit's behavior was unusual, even for him. Emily's weak voice broke the silence. "He's trying to tell us something," she said, her words drawing everyone's attention. Sarah and Mark exchanged glances, their confusion mirrored by the staff. Outside, Spirit's actions grew more purposeful. He moved closer to the building, his gaze fixed on Emily's window as if summoning those inside. And then, as if responding to some invisible cue, the horse let out a long, echoing neigh that sent chills through everyone who heard it. The air seemed to shift, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken meaning. For the first time that day, hope flickered amidst the sorrow. Dr. Carter's heart raced as she turned back to Emily. The girl's pale face was illuminated by the soft sunlight streaming through the window, and for a brief moment the room felt alive with possibility. Spirit's behavior became impossible to ignore. The horse, usually quiet and calm, now moved with urgency, pacing and neighing loudly as if demanding attention. Inside the room, everyone exchanged puzzled glances, unsure of what to make of the spectacle. "I've never seen him act like this," said one of the nurses, peering through the window. "It's like he knows something we don't." Dr. Carter's gaze lingered on Spirit. Though logic told her it was simply the peculiar behavior of an animal, something deeper tugged at her instincts. Turning to Emily, she noticed a faint glow in the child's eyes, as if the sight of the horse had sparked a tiny flame within her. "Emily," Dr. Carter said gently, "do you want to see him? Up close?" Sarah and Mark hesitated, exchanging worried glances. "Is that safe?" Mark asked, his voice tight with concern. Dr. Carter nodded. "Spirit has never shown aggression, and if it brings her comfort." She let the sentence trail off, the unspoken hope in her words clear. Emily's lips parted in a faint smile, the first in days. "Please," she whispered. That single word set everything into motion. Nurses quickly coordinated to bring Emily outside, carefully disconnecting her from the machines while ensuring she remained stable. Within minutes, they wheeled her bed to the garden, where Spirit waited, his powerful frame outlined against the bright sky. As the group emerged from the building, Spirit stilled. His pacing stopped, and his ears perked up, focused entirely on Emily. His deep, soulful eyes seemed to soften as he stepped forward. His movements slow and deliberate. The staff held their breath, captivated by the animal's grace and intensity. Emily reached out a trembling hand as Spirit approached. The horse stopped just short of her bedside, lowering his head as if in reverence. The moment their eyes met, an unexplainable calm washed over the garden. The child's frail fingers brushed against Spirit's muzzle, and her smile widened, a spark of life returning to her pale face. "It's like he knows her," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Mark nodded, unable to speak, as tears streamed down his face. Dr. Carter observed in awe, her medical expertise offering no explanation for what was unfolding. Spirit nuzzled Emily's hand gently, his breath warm and steady. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then something remarkable happened. Emily's shallow breathing grew steadier, her chest rising and falling with newfound strength. Her color improved, and the faint shadow of exhaustion lifted from her face. Everyone froze, their eyes darting between the monitors and the girl, trying to comprehend the sudden change. Dr. Carter stepped forward, her hand lightly resting on Emily's wrist to check her pulse. "Her vitals," she murmured, her voice filled with disbelief. "They're improving." A ripple of astonishment spread through the group. The nurses exchanged hushed exclamations, their professional composure giving way to wonder. Sarah clasped her hands over her mouth, her tears flowing freely as she stared at her daughter. "It's him," Emily said softly, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. "He's helping me." Spirit remained still, his presence commanding yet soothing. It was as if he understood the weight of the moment, his every movement imbued with purpose. Dr. Carter, though skeptical by nature, couldn't deny the evidence before her. Emily's condition had stabilized, her energy visibly returning. "This isn't possible," she whispered, her mind racing to find a logical explanation. But logic had no place here. What was happening transcended science, a connection between a girl and an animal that defied explanation. As the minutes turned into hours, Emily's condition continued to improve. She laughed softly for the first time in months, her small hand never leaving Spirit's muzzle. The staff watched in stunned silence, their hearts swelling with hope. By evening, the news of Spirit's extraordinary interaction with Emily had spread throughout the hospital. Families of other patients gathered at the windows, catching glimpses of the miraculous scene unfolding in the garden. The horse had become a symbol of hope, his presence a testament to the unexplainable power of compassion. Dr. Carter approached Sarah and Mark, her expression a mix of disbelief and cautious optimism. "I don't know how to explain this," she admitted, "but whatever Spirit is doing, it's working. Emily is stabilizing." Sarah clung to Mark, her voice choked with emotion. "Do you think she's getting better?" Dr. Carter hesitated, her gaze returning to the girl who now looked more alive than she had in weeks. "It's too early to say," she replied honestly. "But this is extraordinary." Word of Emily and Spirit's extraordinary connection spread quickly, drawing attention from hospital staff, patients, and even local reporters. The garden, once a quiet and solitary space, became the epicenter of something remarkable. Families of other patients stood at a respectful distance, watching as the horse remained at Emily's side, his calm presence a beacon of hope. Spirit refused to leave. He stood steadfast near Emily's bed, his watchful gaze never wavering. Even when nurses attempted to coax him away with food and water, he would only take a step back before returning to her side. The bond between them was undeniable, and no one dared to interrupt it. Dr. Carter, ever the pragmatist, delved into Emily's medical records, searching for a scientific explanation for the sudden improvement in her condition. The vitals, which had been steadily declining for weeks, now showed consistent stability. Her oxygen levels were higher, her heart rate stronger, and even her blood work hinted at unexpected recovery. "It doesn't make sense," Dr. Carter said, shaking her head as she reviewed the charts. "There's no medical explanation for this kind of turnaround." Sarah, who had stayed by Emily's side through every moment, leaned forward, her eyes filled with hope. "Do we need an explanation?" she asked softly. "She's here. She's smiling. Isn't that enough?" Dr. Carter hesitated, glancing out the window at Spirit, who stood motionless as Emily gently stroked his muzzle. "Maybe it is," she admitted. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily's energy seemed to grow. Her laughter, soft and sweet, filled the air as she told Spirit about her favorite stories and dreams. "I always wanted a horse," she confessed, her voice tinged with wonder, "but I never thought I'd meet one like you." Spirit neighed softly in response, his breath warm against her hand. The connection between them felt almost sacred, as if they understood each other in a way words couldn't capture. Mark, who had remained quiet throughout the day, finally spoke. "Do you think he came here for her?" he asked Sarah, his voice heavy with emotion, like he knew she needed him. Sarah nodded, her tears returning. "It's hard not to believe that," she said. "He's been here all along. Maybe we just didn't see it." As the night deepened, the garden grew quiet. The crowd of onlookers had dispersed, leaving only Emily, her parents, Dr. Carter, and Spirit under the soft glow of the moonlight. The stillness was peaceful, almost magical, as if the world itself had paused to honor the moment. Dr. Carter approached Spirit cautiously, her steps slow and deliberate. Though she wasn't one to believe in miracles, something about the horse's presence stirred her deeply. Kneeling beside him, she reached out, her hand brushing against his sturdy neck. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know how or why, but you've given her something we couldn't." Spirit's ears twitched, and he let out a low, gentle snort, as if acknowledging her gratitude. The next morning brought more unexpected news. Emily's condition had improved so significantly that Dr. Carter decided to conduct additional tests. The results were astonishing. Her body, once ravaged by illness, now showed signs of recovery. The anomalies in her blood work were stabilizing, and her organs were regaining strength. "It's like her body is fighting back," Dr. Carter told the nurses, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Something has changed, and it's working in her favor." By midday, Emily was sitting up in her bed, her energy returning in ways no one thought possible. Spirit, as always, remained close, his unwavering presence a constant source of comfort. For the first time in weeks, Sarah and Mark dared to hope. "She's coming back to us," Sarah whispered, her hand clutching Mark's tightly. "She's really coming back." But the question lingered. Why Spirit? What had drawn the horse to Emily, and how had he sparked such an extraordinary transformation? While some dismissed it as coincidence, others couldn't ignore the profound connection between the girl and the animal. As the day wore on, a small crowd gathered once more in the garden, their curiosity and wonder growing. Emily's laughter rang out, her joy infectious as she recounted stories of her favorite animals to Spirit. Dr. Carter, standing at a distance, watched with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "Whatever it is," she murmured to herself, "it's something beyond what any of us can explain." Emily's remarkable recovery continued to defy all expectations. Within days, she could sit up unaided, her laughter and bright eyes breathing new life into the once somber hospital wing. The staff, who had grown accustomed to solemn routines, now found themselves smiling more often, their spirits lifted by the miracle unfolding before them. Spirit became an unofficial member of the hospital family. Despite being a horse of imposing size, his gentle demeanor put everyone at ease. Patients and staff alike marveled at his connection with Emily, many drawn to the garden just to witness the bond firsthand. The hospital administration, initially skeptical, allowed Spirit to stay on the grounds after seeing the profound impact he had not just on Emily, but on everyone around her. One afternoon, as Emily sat outside with Spirit by her side, a boy in a wheelchair approached cautiously. His name was Max, a patient from a neighboring ward who had been battling his own illness. His small, hesitant voice broke the quiet. Can I pet him?" Emily beamed and nodded. "Of course, Spirit's really nice." With the nurse's help, Max extended his hand towards Spirit's muzzle. The horse lowered his head, his warm breath brushing against Max's fingers. The boy's face lit up with joy, his laughter echoing in the garden. "He's amazing," Max said, his voice filled with wonder. Sarah and Mark, watching from a nearby bench, exchanged knowing smiles. Spirit's impact extended far beyond their daughter. He was bringing light to countless others. Dr. Carter, ever the skeptic, continued to monitor Emily's progress with meticulous care. Each test brought more good news. Her vitals were stable, her immune system was strengthening, and the anomalies in her blood work had vanished entirely. It was as if her body had decided to heal against all odds. "It's unprecedented," she told Sarah and Mark during a routine checkup. "I've never seen anything like this in my career. Whatever caused this turnaround, it's extraordinary." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Do you think Spirit?" she began, unable to finish the question. Dr. Carter hesitated, her professional skepticism warring with the undeniable evidence before her. Finally, she said, I don't know what role Spirit played, but it's clear his presence has made a difference. Emily's spirit, her will to fight, has returned, and that, more than anything, is what's helping her heal. As the days passed, the garden became a sanctuary not just for Emily, but for many other patients. Families brought their children outside to meet Spirit, their faces lighting up as the horse offered his quiet companionship. Even staff members found themselves drawn to his presence, seeking a moment of peace during their hectic shifts. Emily, now strong enough to walk short distances with assistance, often shared stories about Spirit with the other children. "He's magical," she told them, her voice filled with conviction. "He came to help me, and now he's helping all of us." Her words sparked a ripple of hope throughout the hospital. Spirit had become more than a companion. He was a symbol of resilience and healing, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, light could be found. But questions lingered. Where had Spirit come from? Why had he chosen the hospital grounds as his sanctuary? And most importantly, how had he known to be there for Emily in her time of need? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mark stood by the fence surrounding the meadow where Spirit often grazed. Watching the horse, he felt a deep sense of gratitude mixed with curiosity. "You're something special," he murmured. "I don't know what brought you here, but I'm glad you came." Spirit lifted his head, his gaze meeting Mark's. For a moment, it felt as though the horse understood every word. That night, as Emily lay in her bed, she looked out the window toward the meadow. "Do you think Spirit will always stay here?" she asked Sarah, her voice soft but steady. Sarah stroked her daughter's hair, her heart swelling with emotion. "I think Spirit came to us for a reason," she said. "And as long as he's here, he'll be part of our family." Emily smiled, her eyelids growing heavy with sleep. "He's my best friend," she whispered before drifting off. Outside, Spirit stood motionless under the moonlight, his silhouette strong and serene. His presence was a quiet promise, a vow to remain by Emily's side for as long as she needed him. Weeks turned into months, and Emily's recovery became a story that resonated far beyond the hospital walls. Medical journals featured articles about her miraculous turnaround, while local newspapers hailed Spirit as a hero. People traveled from nearby towns just to catch a glimpse of the horse that had defied explanation. Emily's strength grew with each passing day. She no longer needed assistance to walk, and her once fragile frame now held a newfound energy. The girl who had once faced the unthinkable now ran through the hospital's garden, her laughter filling the air as Spirit trotted beside her. Sarah and Mark could hardly believe the transformation. Their gratitude for Spirit knew no bounds, and their bond with the horse deepened as they watched him continue to bring joy to everyone around him. "He's not just a horse," Sarah said one afternoon as she and Mark watched Emily play. "He's a gift." Spirit's impact extended beyond Emily. His calming presence inspired other children to push through their treatments with newfound determination. Parents who had felt the crushing weight of helplessness found solace in the garden, where Spirit's quiet strength seemed to promise that all was not lost. Dr. Carter, too, found herself profoundly changed. A lifelong skeptic, she had always believed in facts and figures, but Spirit's role in Emily's recovery challenged her worldview. "Not everything can be explained," she admitted during a staff meeting. "Sometimes there's more to healing than medicine alone." Her words sparked discussions among the staff, many of whom had witnessed firsthand the profound effect Spirit had on patients and families alike. The hospital administration even considered establishing a permanent program to bring animals into the facility, recognizing the undeniable connection between emotional well-being and physical recovery. One crisp autumn morning, a ceremony was held in the hospital garden to honor Spirit and his role in Emily's recovery. Patients, staff, and families gathered under the golden canopy of the trees, their faces glowing with gratitude. A small plaque was unveiled near the garden's entrance, reading, "In honor of Spirit, a true guardian of hope." Emily, now vibrant and full of life, stood beside Spirit as the crowd applauded. She leaned close to his ear, whispering, "Thank you for saving me." The horse lowered his head, his warm breath brushing against her cheek as if acknowledging her words. As the days turned to years, Spirit's presence remained a constant. He became a symbol of the hospital's commitment to healing, his story inspiring everyone who heard it. Emily, now older, often visited the garden with her parents, sharing memories of the horse who had changed her life. "I'll never forget him," she said during one visit. "He taught me to believe in miracles." Spirit's legacy extended far beyond the hospital. Other facilities began implementing animal-assisted therapy programs, citing his story as a catalyst for change. His impact reached people who had never met him, his tale spreading hope to those facing their own battles. On one particularly beautiful evening, as the sun set over the meadow, Spirit stood at the edge of the fence, watching the horizon. Sarah, sitting nearby with Emily, turned to her daughter. "Do you think he'll ever leave?" she asked softly. Emily shook her head, her gaze fixed on the horse. "No," she said with certainty. "He'll always be here even if we can't see him." And in many ways, she was right. Spirit's presence had become part of the hospital's heart, his story woven into its fabric. He was more than an animal. He was a symbol of resilience, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between humans and the creatures who touch our lives. If this story of love, resilience, and unexpected miracles moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's celebrate the extraordinary connections that inspire us to believe in the impossible.